Hey everybody, it's Chris from CTurn, and today I'm making a solo video today. It's going to be about my Monarch deck, but it's going to be a little more than a profile. I want to try some new things, so let me know what you think. This is a new series I want to start. It's going to be called The Deck Adventures, Cooking with Crisco Chris. And today we're going to be exploring the Liberators. This is going to be part one of this series, part one of this episode, and this one, I don't want to have it run too long, so in this episode I'm just going to cover the grade 0s and the grade 1s. Overall in the episode we're going to cover not only the cards I run, but the cards that other people run, the cards that you might tech in, and just overall flow, the strategy of the deck, and how it works. So first I'm going to start with the starters. The one that I run, and the one that a lot of other people run, and very good, is Yearning Liberator Arm. His skill is if you have a grade 3 greater Vanguard, you can put him into the Soul and search the deck for Blaster Blade Liberator, shuffle the deck, and then you put him on top. Seems pretty simple. I think it's probably the best deck to go with Monarch right now, because it adds consistency, because you can get Blaster Blade whenever you want him, using some sort of top calling method, whether it's Alfred's Limit Break or some other cards. So I definitely think he's the best starter right now. A lot of people will agree with me that Arm is probably the best starter with Monarch and the whole Blaster Blade series. And then we'll explore some other options that other people might run. Here I have Liberator Cheer Up Trumpeter. Cheer Up Trumpeter was really big a few sets back when Garmor Roundtable Alfred was a really good deck. She works, you put her into the Soul, and that unit will get 3,000 power for each gold, called to rearguard from the deck. It was really used with Garmor's Limit Break for like a big power hit. He would gain 15,000 for the turn, but I mean it was a one-shot use thing. It just added power, and if it was perfect guarded, none of that would really matter anyways. So he's definitely a good option. He works the same with Monarch. Monarch will call 5, so he would get 15,000 power with Cheer Up as well. So it's definitely a viable card. If you want to run it, it's available. Just not as good as Arm, but it's definitely in the top 3 of best starters. The third support that I would say is the third best would probably be Spring Breeze Messenger. Spring Breeze is not a Liberator, but probably has been one of the best starters for a very long time, since like the original Garmor. He works when an attack hits that he's boosting. You can put him into the Soul and counterblast 1, and you call 1 from the top 3, and you call it to rest. So this is good. It does add a lot of pressure. People might want to block him. He was really good when you could use chain calling skills such as Lop-Ear, Pelennor decks. You could enable like different kinds of chain calling to call massive amounts of field, like swarming the field all at once. That's not really the main strategy now, and since we have cards like Alfred that can swarm the field by himself, we don't necessarily need Spring Breeze. But I mean, he is a viable option, and I'll leave him available. He's not as good as Cheer Up or Arm, but I would still probably put him at number 3 spot. And we're also going to look at some future options, because, things are coming out really fast, so we always want to keep things open. The starter, probably one of the next best starter coming out in set 17, his name is Korangal Liberator. He has the same skill as May Rain Liberator Bruno when he's when he's on the rearguard circle. He gains 3 as long as the Vanguard is in Legion, so he has to be used with a Legion card. He gains 3,000 power for each gold paladin called to the rearguard from deck. So he's expected to see a lot of play with people like Percival, Glare, Prominence Core, all the gold paladin legions. So if you're not running, I don't consider him to be that good in the Monarch deck specifically, but if you're running Monarch alongside a legion like Percival maybe, or Prominence Core, you can kind of get away with it. He's not going to be good until you Legion, but very powerful. He does not have to be behind the vanguard. He can be in one of the other rear guard positions. So we can also boost a rear guard call and make it very powerful. He would gains 3, so that would be 12. He would be 17 by himself. So powerful card. When he comes out, people will probably play test him more with the legions and see how he does with them. So that's it for the starters. Overall, for the summary, I would just put Arm at number 1, being the best starter with Monarch. I'd put Chirp Trumpet as number 2, synergy with the mass calling. And I would put Spring Breeze Messenger at number 3, early pressure and early superior calling. Okay, now we're going to move on to the trigger lineup. Overall in Gold Paladins, I would say the trigger lineup can be pretty flexible. There are certain things that are run more than others, but I've seen people run different amounts of all types of triggers. So really anything is possible. I would just recommend that you try it out with different decks. Try it out, make sure you really like what you're running. What I run in my deck, and which is probably considered to be one of the more consistent ones, is 8 critical. I run 8 critical. I run 4 draw triggers, and I run the 4 heal triggers. I would probably say that I like 8 crit with 4 draw the best, because I feel I get strong offense from the early crits and just the criticals overall, but also having drawing power with the draw triggers. As of right now, we only have 2 sets of Liberator critical triggers, so those are the only 2. The max we can run is 8 if you want to stick with the Liberators. I've seen people run 12 with Flame of Victory. You know, you can go up to 12 with her. She's not bad with the deck. You're running a risk of not having Liberators, but you can play around it if you will. I would probably say draws would either be maxed at 4 if you're going to run them. I mean, you could go something like 6 critical with 6 draw triggers. It's not as bad, but you are losing a lot of offensive power from those critical triggers, and you already will have a large hand size anyways, because Gold Paladins can call from the deck rather than calling from the hand. Heal triggers, pretty standard heal trigger. And here we have some options as well. Here is This is the new critical trigger that we're getting in the Percival Trial Decks, Trial Deck 16, coming out in the end of November. So with this, his name is Steel Edge Liberator, Aruria, something like that. It's kind of weird. But with this coming out, we'll finally have 3 sets of Liberator critical triggers. So with that, you can finally run 12 crit. I know a lot of people are going to be running 12 crit when Legion comes out. Just go full offensive, early power, and everything. So you have the 3rd critical is going to be available if you would like to run that. I think it's a great addition to the deck. A lot of offensive power that you might miss with the draw triggers, but it'll probably pay off in the end. In set 17, this is an interesting one. A lot of debates coming out. His name is Ketchgall Liberator. He's a stand trigger. He has the same skill to this card Zoran, where if he's called to rearguard from the deck, put him into the soul, and you can call 1 from the top 3. That's not named Ketchgall. So he is pretty good. I know that he's going to be used a lot with Prominence Core, because being able to chain call, being able to fish out for those 2 cards that you need, the 2 Legion cards to get off the Legion skill. So he's pretty good in that sense. I don't really see any other reasons to run him. The stand triggers themselves might seem inadequate in this deck, and just most Liberator decks overall. But if you're going to run him, I would run him for the skill, and make sure he's really compatible with the deck. Overall, great card, great stand trigger. If you would like to run him, he's available as well. Next we're going to move on to grade 1s. Okay, so these are all the grade 1s that I'm running right now. Some of them can be optional, some of them can be teched in or out of more copies. So I'm not going to talk so much about the numbers, but I just want to get to the cards themselves. Probably the first staple card is going to be your Perfect Guard. Right now I'm running the regular Shield Mark. When the second perfect guard comes out, I'm definitely going to try and switch over to the Liberator marks. Right now I don't have a problem with having a non-Liberator because Monarch Alfred and Blaster Blade, two big cards in the deck, don't need Liberator Counterblast. So it's pretty helpful. It's not a big issue most of the time. You probably won't notice it. If the max non-Liberators you run is 4, you're not going to see any big issues. The next staple card would be Right Rainbow Liberator Balin. He works like the similar to Dorant card back in Avengers, where if Blaster Blade Liberator is called to rear guard, you can unflip a damage. Differences with this guy, he does not have to be in the same column, so that way he can stack with multiple copies of himself and multiple copies of Blaster Blade. If you have 2 of him on the field, call a Blaster Blade, you can unflip 2 damage. And I also learned that you can call Blaster Blade if you have 4 damage, let's say, and you haven't used any Counterblast, you can call Blaster Blade first. Use his skill, and then if you had 2 of these on the field, you'd be able to unflip 2 afterwards. Both skills activate at the same time. You can choose which one to resolve first. Next card that I would consider staple is Bruno. The way he works is when a gold paladin is placed on rear guard from the deck, if you have a Liberator, he gains 3,000 power for each one called, basically. So, overall, I would probably say he's really the powerhouse. The fact that he's a common will throw some people off, but for anyone that plays goals, they probably consider him to be staple because he can get up to, with mass callers like Garmor and Monarch Alfred, he'll get 12,000, he can get up to 12,000. But with even cards like the Legions, you might just call 1 a turn or 2 a turn. So he might only get 3,000 or 6,000, but that's still very powerful columns by himself. Being only grade 1, he doesn't have to boost, so you can put 2 of them in the front row, put 1 in the back, 1 in the front. And with Monarch Alfred, this makes a 38,000 column, so pretty strong. Next card. These are more optional cards. You can tech them in if you want. I like both of them, and I run 2 of each. First, we have Physical Force Zoran. When he's placed on rear guard from the deck, you put him into the soul, and then you call 1 from the top 3. Pretty good card. He's very good in the Monarch deck because it helps you fish for things like Blaster Blade, Star Rain Trumpeter, things like that. He also allows you to gain another 3,000 from Bruno's effect, and also he helps with soul problems that you're most likely going to have when you run Monarch, and you use Limit Break maybe like 2 or 3 times a game. You're gonna start to run out of soul. Next one, Starry Skies Guinevere. She's a new card, she's a clone of another one. I believe it's a Bermuda Triangle card. When she's placed on Guardian Circle, Counterblast 1, and if you have a Liberator Vanguard, it gains 5,000 shield power for each gold paladin you have on rearguard. So basically, if she's called to rearguard and you have a full field with like Monarch Alfred or something, you can Counterblast 1, and then she would gain 5,000 for each rearguard. So each Liberator rearguard. So that would turn out to be 25,000. So Guinevere plus the 5 is a 30,000 shield, which as of right now is stronger than most Quintet walls. Most Quintet walls on average will guard anywhere from 15 to 25,000. So if you have full field, that's 30,000. If they took out your 2 rear guards, that comes out to 20,000. So I mean, it's still really strong. Your Vanguard will be guarding for up to 31, even high as 41, which is almost going to be no pass in most situations. So both of these cards are optional. While they may not be as flexible in all decks, Zoran works well in this deck, and Guinevere also works well in this deck. If you want to run them outside the Monarch, you can definitely try them out, see what you think. They're pretty good cards, I would say. We have a total defense idea with Guinevere, recharging Soul, and more calling with Zoran. Some more options for grade 1s. You might want to tack in some new cards. First we have Marin. Marin is your 10k grade 1 attacker. You have Liberator Vanguard, and she attacks, she gains 3,000. Problem with Marin is I don't feel that we have enough grade 1 spots to fit her in the deck right now. I mean, I'm already running 5 different grade 1s. I don't feel I can fit in Marin. And I just feel like the extra power doesn't help. It's not really noticeable early game. I mean, she only works on rear guard. I feel that you're better off running these 5 than Marin, but if you want to, or maybe if you're going for a budget build, Marin still works well. You can find her in the trial deck, the Roundtable Alfred trial deck. Genslot trial deck, sorry. And other option, we have Fast Chase Liberator Josephus. He was used a lot in like the Garmor Alfred deck, back when that was pretty good. He's similar to a lot of other cards. When he's placed on rear guard from the deck, Soul Blast 1, and you can draw a card. Big issue, pretty obvious here, is the Soul Blast. Even with Zoran, you're not going to have enough Soul to use this card, especially if you're using the Monarch's Limit Break more than maybe twice a game. You would have to like re-ride things, and it proves to be too hectic. Yosis is a good card, and he's going to see a lot of play in Legion decks because they call a lot, but they don't use Soul. So he's definitely going to be a helpful card. If you have one, I definitely would hold on to him in upcoming sets. Next we have some more grade 1 options. They might not be as viable, but they can work in the deck. Here we have Barkal Liberator. He seems like he would be good because, you know, Blaster Blades being the main focus of the deck. His skill, when he hits the Vanguard that he boosts Blaster Blade Liberator, you call one from the top 3 as rest. I would say this card's pretty good. I don't see any big issues with him. The skill, it's hard to get the skill off all the time because he has to be boosting Blaster Blade Liberator and the attack has to hit. So I mean, that's 2 things that might not always happen. He's only a 7,000 booster. He's only a 7,000 booster if he's just boosting. But I mean, we don't really need a 7,000 vanilla booster. We have Bruno, who's boosting for more than that, and Balin, who's going to be unflipping damage. If you want to run him, he can be pretty good. Allows you to call a lot of other cards early, you know, maybe get some effects off. Overall, not bad. I still don't think we have room to fit him in, but if you want to tech him in, instead of Zoran or Guinevere, you can probably throw him in at maybe like 2 copies. This is a future card coming out in set 17. This is going to be our Limit Break Enabler, allowing you to use Limit Break 4 skills before you're at 4 damage. Personally, I don't think this will be used with Monarch Alfred. It can't be used with the Legion cards. This does have a lot of synergy with cards like Solitary Gancelot, Holy Shine Dragon, Gancelot Zenith, Roundtable Alfred, those guys. He's great with like those lower free counterblast costing cards. With really strong limit breaks, you can get off their powers early. Not a bad card. I definitely think he's going to be used as a contender to Legion. If you're not running Legion, you might run him with a Zenith, Gancelot kind of deck. Great card. Definitely look out for him when he comes out in the end of December. Last grade 1 is going to be our second perfect card. His name is Shine Formation Liberator Eldol. I don't see any reason to run him. The good news about him is that with him coming out, Halo Liberator Mark, his price is going to go down for sure. So even if you don't get this guy, if you wanted to pick up some marks right when he comes out, it's going to be a great time to do it. That's it for the grade 1s. I don't include the Quintet Wall because I feel the Quintet Wall, personally, if you like to use them, you can, but I feel that it's too iffy. It uses up a lot of Counterblast and a Counterblast heavy deck, and I feel Perfect Guards are just more consistent right now, at least until Legion comes out. So probably I'd say that concludes this video. This is only going to be part 1. I just dealt with the grade 0s and 1s for now. In the next episode, I'll have a link to it. I'm going to be talking about the grades 2 and 3, which are going to require a little more in-depth explanation, discussion about different options. So I'll see you in the next episode, and thanks for your support.